Northeast. There has been destruction, there has been death as the remnants of Hurricane Ida are hitting the Northeast this week. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy both declaring states of emergency, calling on residents to remain inside, not to travel. Fire and rescue crews across the region responded to a number of water rescues and evacuations because of the high water levels. There have been at least 5 weather-related fatalities so far recorded, 4 in New York City, 1 in Passaic, New Jersey. The National Weather Service issued a flash flood emergency in New York City for the first time ever last night. More than 3 inches of rain was recorded in Central Park within an hour, shattering a record set just last week. This is video of water rushing into an apartment on East 22nd Street in Manhattan. Most subway lines, as you can imagine, were suspended last night due to the heavy rain and flooding. The storm-impacted winds were just too much for the court at Louis Armstrong Stadium. And look at this photo of Yankee Stadium taken by broadcaster Michael Kay, the entire outfield underwater. A number of funnel clouds and tornadoes also were reported across the Northeast. Earlier in the day, the storm swept through Maryland.
Touching down in and around Annapolis, Maryland, tornadoes on the ground for many miles after spinning off from Hurricane Ida that slammed Louisiana.
You in your lowest level of your house.
In downtown Annapolis, power lines and signs ripped down in front of businesses. In nearby neighborhoods, roofs torn off and trees uprooted. Meanwhile, in Frederick, Maryland, flash flooding caught a bus driver off guard. 11 school kids rescued as the bus was submerged. Throughout the day, Ida unleashing blinding lightning and torrential rain on the nation's capital. The D.C. metro area under flood warnings and a tornado watch well into the evening. 3 inches of flash rain swamped the region, tearing down trees, flooding intersections, and trapping drivers in their cars. In Rockville, Maryland, hundreds were forced to flee their apartments when a swollen river sent a wall of water surging into garden-level apartments as people slept. Police say a 19-year-old man drowned in his apartment, unable to get out.
They are now advising that there may possibly be 2 more adults, and she believes they are underwater.
Firefighters used boats to pull people to safety. In all, 150 people displaced. 1 resident still missing.
These people.
Ida continues to unleash tornadoes, dumping record amounts of rain as it marches up the eastern seaboard.
Pattering for areas of the country, like the periods of record in New York City go back 153 years, and we've never seen anything like this. This was 4th Avenue. I used to live in this part of Brooklyn. This is the bottom of Park Slope. I used to take the subway line in to do this show every morning at 2, 3 in the morning. I never saw anything like this at all. This is the road that the New York City Marathon runs down each November. It's a low spot, and that water, the R subway line is right underneath that, and that must have been completely flooded. And the tornadoes yesterday alone, this one that was captured just outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey is likely going to be one of the strongest tornadoes in New Jersey history. That was probably an EF3 or an EF4 tornado. The tornado in Annapolis was very strong. We had a dam break in Pennsylvania yesterday that flooded a town, and typically all of these things would be like a headline story all by itself, but what happened through the Northeast as this moved through. Well, people have to remember, this was a flash flood for the most part. So this was in and this is out. A lot of the water has already been receding. A lot of the water is on its way out. Now, there are some major rivers like the Raritan River that will peak later on today. But a lot of the water and all the pictures you're seeing now will be gone by the time the helicopters get up to kind of show where the damage is. There wasn't a lot of wind with it, so there's not a ton of power out of it.
New York and New Jersey received up to a foot of rain as the New York City subway system shut down overnight. Newark Airport also suspended flights. New Jersey with more.
A flash flooding siege in the Northeast. States of emergency in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Multiple deaths reported as the remnants of Ida merged with a front to produce chaos. For the first time in recorded history, the National Weather Service issuing a flash flood emergency for all 5 boroughs of New York City. More than 7 inches of rain in just a few hours. The Western Hemisphere's busiest subway system shut down. Waterfalls pouring down station stairs, trains pulling in to find platforms submerged. People wading through waist-high water, above ground stranded cars, and water rescues everywhere.
FDNY members rescuing someone who has been trapped in that Jeep for now well over an hour.
Our New York station, WABC, right there, as a man was finally brought to safety. And in Queens, a partial building collapse, at least 2 people killed. And at Newark Airport in New Jersey, the wettest day ever recorded. Flooding taking over baggage claim terminals, hundreds of flights canceled. Passaic, New Jersey Mayor Hector Lora pleading during the storm for people to stay inside.
We have bodies underwater. We are now retrieving bodies.
The same system torturing southern New Jersey and Pennsylvania earlier in the evening with at least 6 tornadoes.
Look at that tornado!
Nearly 25 homes in Mullica Hill, a total loss. Others shredded.
See branches start to get carried by the wind past my house. The chair on our front porch got flipped, and it was nuts.
In Horsham, Pennsylvania, the storm uprooting trees, tipping semis, and in Allegheny County, 41 people, mostly students, in this bus rescued. Experts attributing the frequency of these extreme rainfall events to human-caused climate change.
A flood that had about a 1% chance of happening any given year isn't the 100-year flood anymore.
Underway, how dangerous is a situation like this, particularly when we had this combination last night of the tornado warnings and the flash flood warnings?
Right. So we've got a flash flood emergency was issued. A flash flood emergency is different than just the regular flash flood warning, which, by the way, is flash flood emergency was what made this unique. And unique because the National Weather Service in New York issued it for the 5 boroughs of New York for the first time. Issued for exceedingly rare situations, severe threat to human life, just like we saw last night with catastrophic damage. The most unfortunate part as we see that rainfall of more than 8 inches across this large swath, 3 to 5 inch per hour rainfall rates. The part that bothers me the most is we've been talking about Ida's remnants hitting this front, causing severe flash flooding for days. In the last 24 hours, the warnings were there. The communication, obviously, did not get through. And that's the part we need to work on top of sustainability and finding a way to live in a new climate reality with extremes.
We're looking at footage now from Philadelphia. You can just see the tops of cars. These cars are completely submerged in water there. How long, Ginger, do you think it's going to take for not only the Northeast, but the country to recover from Ida's damage from the Gulf Coast all the way up?
Well, the video that you were just seeing is the Schuylkill River in Philadelphia. The mayor there asking people who live in flood zones to stay in place because the rain's been gone for hours, but the river has been rising. It should crest. We won't know the extent of damage from Ida for a few days, but we already saw millions and millions of dollars in damage. 36 hours ago, I was still in New Orleans and still seeing all of the collapsed buildings and then the water still standing in some of those parishes. So many parts of this country now feeling exactly how the rest, I guess that brings us together in some sick way, even when you look at the fires in those extremes and all the people out of their homes this morning in South Lake Tahoe.